And good afternoon, and welcome to Williams Island TV. Today we have our guest with us, Commissioner Gladys Mezrahi. But the reason I asked Gladys to be on today is because of the COVID numbers going up so drastically. And Gladys is from South America, and quite a bit of our population on the island is from South America, various parts, whether it be Brazil, whether it be Colombia, Buenos Aires. So I thought to bring a little clarity to what is going on, you could explain a little bit, because you're very much in touch with the relatives and such that you have in these countries. So maybe you could give us an idea, an update as to what is going on. I do want to preface, as I say whenever we do this, we are both commissioners on the Aventura Commission. So therefore we are not, under the Sunshine Laws, allowed to talk about city business. So I know we've had some questions coming in, but that we will not be discussing today. This is strictly about the COVID issue and what's going on in South America and such. So I just want to clarify that, preface this by, we say that because it's important. So please tell us what is going on in South America, because it's so serious right now again.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's not even only in South America. I had a conversation yesterday with Sheba Medical Center from Israel. Mm-hmm. And it's also having their second wave in Israel. The problem with globally is that people put down their guard. It's like, okay, we went over the curve and it's being spread out by young people. So South America was literally under a lockdown, and they're starting to open. And once they open up, they think that if they get infected, then they're over the curve. The problem is that in South America, a lot of the people live with their uncles, with their grandparents, and they're the older generation. And that's what's happening. That they're doing COVID parties to infect themselves, but they're bringing it home. The travel restrictions is actually much more, I can say, secure than here. Because here you can travel, you can come here and nothing happens. You can get on a plane, you get here, you get to any of the airports, you're not even tested for, if you have a fever, you don't need to get tested. You just come in, nobody knows where you are. When you go back to South America, especially Colombia, Argentina, Guatemala has been one of the most strict countries. First of all, you need a negative test to get on the plane.
So they test you before you get on the plane going down there? They test you
before you leave here. So in order to buy a ticket, you need to get tested.
Let me ask you specifically, because my wife's the cantor at Aventura Turnberry Jewish Center, and there was another cantor that worked together with her in the synagogue from Buenos Aires. Diego Rubenstein. And he went home, he got it, his sister got it, his parents got it, and he was there for quite a while in bed, and then he got out of the hospital and went home. But he said he can't leave the country. And they monitored the people themselves, so he can't even get out of the country. Are there flights coming from South America here?
They are coming, but they're very strict. They're literally enforcing the 14-day quarantine. They're actually enforcing it. And if he was tested positive, he cannot leave the country until he's tested twice negative. Something that we're not doing here. Mm-hmm. So for example, I was reading about Taiwan. Taiwan has the same amount of population as Florida. Taiwan has today been 211 days without one single case. Only because there is a mandatory mask wearing and they listen. That's it. They're keeping social distance, they're wearing masks, and they're cleaning their hands. Mm-hmm. That's all. And until the vaccine is not approved and then distributed, because yesterday when I was talking to one of the executives of Sheba Medical Center, he's actually one of the candidates for the Merck vaccine. Mm-hmm. So he's getting the shot next week. And if he doesn't have any side effects, and the 100 people do not have any side effects, then they will test them to see if they have the antibodies going up. So that's the whole idea of the vaccine.
Gotcha.
So once the antibodies go up, they go to the last phase.
So if you wanted to go back to South America now to visit your family, are you allowed to go?
I'm allowed to go, but I need tests. I need
So you
to
would
test.
have to be tested here before you leave. Then when you get there, do you have to quarantine for 2 weeks?
You have to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Interesting. And then you can do whatever you want.
And
But then when you come back here, you have to quarantine here for 2 weeks, don't you?
Nobody's enforcing that.
Oh.
That's the problem.
That's okay.
That's the catch, because there was, during the summer, there were a lot of people from Mexico that actually flew from Mexico, and nobody was telling them anything.
Well, I understand Stephanie had mentioned to us that coming from Mexico is almost more difficult right now because of the fact that they do have to quarantine from Mexico when they get here, I think it is. And they're being checked out. I don't know about South America at all, but because we have quite a few residents here from, all over, of course. But I do know, now I know certain countries like France and England, they're starting to shut back down again.
They're starting
Travel.
to shut back. Yeah.
Right, that I'm seeing.
And Canada completely closed their border. Canada.
Now, if we go from here to New York, we have to quarantine in New York for 2 weeks.
Yes.
But if you go from South America to New York, you don't have to quarantine?
But nobody's enforcing it.
Okay.
For example, Guatemala, when you go into Guatemala, they look at your passport and they triangulating it to see where you've been. So it's not that you can say, oh, I've been in Colombia and that's it. And if they see that you're from the States, you need to quarantine.
Okay. So right now, then, this is not a safe time, and it's getting into the summer months in South America, isn't it? Down
In
Buenos Aires,
Argentina, Chile, yeah, because Colombia, Ecuador,
the north.
and Venezuela, they're north, so there's not like a winter.
Right, right. Tell us a little about, I know you're involved with, I think if anyone goes to Moe's, which I'm sure most of us all do, there's a motorcycle in front of Moe's. And tell us about that, because I know you were very involved with bringing that to Aventura. Tell us about that motorcycle. It's like a little mini ambulance.
Oh, okay. This is Hatzala.
Okay.
And Hatzala actually is very interesting because it's made up of volunteers, only volunteers, and they are trained to be EMTs, first responders, or unless you're a doctor. So what they do is they have their own motorcycles, they have their own, it's not an ambulance, but it's a fast response.
So they have medical supplies
They're
on
medical supplies, and they are located in, for example, in Aventura, they're located in every single complex. Like, for example, Williams Island has like 10 volunteers.
Really?
So if you have a medical emergency, they're in your apartment in 2 minutes.
Okay, so how does that work in conjunction if you call 911?
Okay.
Because we have AMR on the island.
Yes.
That more or less gets to our residents until the county or, whatever comes to the island. And there's always that delay, so we get there first. Then once the county or state, whoever gets there, they take over.
Okay.
Where does this fit into that?
You have AMR, which a lot of people don't have.
None of them. We're the only
None
ones.
of them.
Right?
Oh, yeah, I think only you guys.
We are.
So first of all, they are culture sensitive. If somebody's very religious, they are all religious. And they can break the rules of Shabbat to save a life.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Hatzala means saving lives.
Right.
So they are allowed, they know who they are, they can knock on their doors and tell them there's an emergency. And immediately when they get there, they call 911.
Okay.
Because 911 is taking an average of, let's say, 7 to 8 minutes. Hatzala is taking 1 minute, 2 minutes.
Because they're on locations already.
And in Aventura, 3 minutes because of the elevator, security, and going out. But in North Miami Beach, they take 1 minute.
Wow.
So it's really, when you're having a heart attack or a stroke, seconds count.
Well, it's interesting about the religious aspect of it because we have a synagogue on the island, of course, and it's Orthodox. And this would be something they should let them know about, because I'm not sure they even realize this is available to them.
So
Who would they contact, or is there someone to talk to about this?
there is someone, the director of Hatzala, South Florida, his name is Andre Reutemann. They have an app. It's called Hatzala South Florida. You can download the app and they have the number. Or if not, just Google. I'm telling Hatzala to do like little magnets and put them on behind the bathrooms, or give everyone to put on the refrigerator, that you can actually contact them in an emergency.
Well, Stephanie, we should get that and let the synagogue know and other people on the island. It doesn't conflict with anything. It's an addition to.
It's an addition.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Police department in Aventura have worked with them and they're extremely happy.
Great.
Because they know what they can do. The other part is that during COVID, when the COVID first started, I have the story of this woman, and this is how real as it gets. This was a woman, she's in her 30s, a single mother with a baby of 2 years. She had COVID. Somebody called me that she was extremely sick, and she didn't want to go to the hospital because they were going to separate her from her daughter. So she called Hatzala. They brought her a ventilator. But she kept on going, she kept on deteriorating. I kept on talking to her every single night, texting her. She didn't want to go to sleep because she was so scared
She wouldn't wake up.
That she couldn't wake up and her daughter would be left alone. So I already had a backup of somebody that had the antibodies that would stay with her daughter. But the interesting thing was that Hatzala had all the equipment and were able to get in, give her a ventilator. We sent her all the medicines. We left them downstairs, and they were able to help a lot. They run only on volunteers and on donations.
So it's all free.
It's all free. There's no cost to anyone, and it can be just an allergy reaction.
They're all over the county, aren't they?
Yes, they're all over South Florida.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And in Israel, Hatzala in Israel is actually training the doctors from the neighboring countries, from Jordan, Palestine, from Gaza Strip, to bring them together and training them on how they could do this to save lives.
Wow, very interesting.
So that's the part that's really interesting with them.
It's so interesting. We all have our jobs as commissioners, but when we get back into real world and the real life, it's interesting. I didn't realize how involved you are with all this, but that's wonderful.
Yeah, no, Hatzala has been amazing, because becoming an EMT, when I was little, my dad used to be...
Was just a few days ago, right?
Yeah. My father used to be a very famous plastic surgeon in Colombia.
Wow.
And I used to go to the emergency with him when I was 12 years old. The phone rang and I was dressed before him. And in my mind, I always dreamt of being an ER doctor. Yeah, that totally passed.
Didn't happen.
No way. But when I heard from Hatzala that they are EMTs, I know how hard it is. Because when I used to go with my dad, he had me trained to do 3 things. Take the blood pressure, take a pulse, and put an IV. And if I couldn't do that, I was not able to go with him. So I knew how difficult it was to get the vein and put an IV under pressure when seconds count.
So all of these people that are doing on the motorcycles,
they are
all trained to do this.
Well,
Steph, we should definitely get some information out, and it doesn't interfere with AMR quite a bit, but I think on the religious aspect of it, that may be something that is, because we've had some incidences where some of the Orthodox on the island were hesitant to have anyone come in, touch their wife, whatever the case is.
Especially women.
Yes.
So they do have women with them.
That's what I was going to ask you.
And the other part is that it's cultural in the Latin community. And I laughed at myself because I went through it 2 weeks ago. When there's like an emergency or somebody feels bad, you don't go to the emergency or you don't dial 911. You ask a friend for
Who to
the
call.
phone number
Right.
of the doctor they know.
Ah,
And
interesting.
2 weeks ago, I had one of those emergency, and the first thing I go is, okay, I'm gonna call my friend because her husband is a doctor. And I realize it's cultural.
It's cultural, very much so. Oh, yes.
So that is why they become your family doctor or your
Very
family
interesting.
friend. And they are there within 2 minutes.
Well, this is great. Well, Gladys, I want to thank you again. Gladys
No,
Mezrahi,
thank
Commissioner
you.
with me. And we're partners in crime on the city, in the city.
Yes.
We look forward to seeing you again, and I can't tell you enough. And by the way, this turned out to be, because we really were more concerned what's happening in South America, but then I realized you were involved with this organization, which is amazing, totally free, all volunteers,
Yes.
and it's just wonderful.
And if I had one wish, which airports are controlled on a federal level, that they would do contact tracing and
Yeah.
testing. And that's the difference in Taiwan. All the money was done to testing, tracing, and that's how 211 days without a case. We should learn
Wonderful.
something
Well,
about them.
we should learn.
Yep.
Anyway, I thank you so much
No,
for being
thank
here,
you.
and the island thanks you, and we will see you shortly. Thank you.